be over for the best of their hopes and for some
Foreseeable
of the
future, yeah.
foreseeable future. Is 38-12. The Dragons, much maligned again, put up a show as most teams are, except for another maligned team. But anyway, what the stats say? Full disclosure, I've only seen the highlights of this because we were out and about and got drunk.
I did go back and watch it, but we had 7 tries to 2, 5 out of 7 conversions, played 1 out of 2 for the Dolphins, and 1 out of 2 penalty attempts for the Dolphins. 38 out of 44 sets, played 30 out of 35, 420 plus running metres and 145 plus post-contact metres for the Dragons, 9 line breaks to 3, 39 tackle busts to 21, 11 offloads to 5, 2 forced dropouts for St George, 0 40-20s, 275 tackles played, 350 for the Dolphins, 2 ruck infringements to 3, 0 inside the 10s, 8 penalties conceded from both teams, 6 errors conceded from both sides, and a sin bin for the Dolphins. Laurie made 31 tackles, Lemu made 41. Who is that? Jesus. Isako with 197 running metres. Sully with 198 running metres. Supercoach points, Isako with 108. Supercoach points, Hunt with 103. And Ravalawa with 92. What do you say? Well done, the Dragons.
Well done to the Dragons. And the Dolphins forwards tried, at least in defence.
Oh, Dragons fought really hard, especially in the first half.
The Dolphins forwards, 6 of them got at least 30 tackles, as you sort of went over there talking about some of the tackle stats. But I think one of the big key factors, and it's going to be the big key factor when the Dragons win games this year, Ben Hunt was amazing. He, for me, best player on the field. The puppet master directing the Dragons around the field and got involved in defence as well. 15 tackles, which I'm not sure does he usually get around that?
Yeah,
I mean, it's
10 to 20.
It's a solid,
roughly.
yeah.
But he does play hooker for Australia, so he can tackle.
I'm not saying he can't tackle, but just in that position as well. And 124 running metres. He ran the ball really well too. There was that try that he scored as well. There was just sort of nothing going on, and it was sort of like he was shaping up to pass the ball downfield. But sometimes those instinctive plays can make all the difference. Where he just
really
went himself and
he just seems to do it every week or two. He just pops up and scores a try.
And it's good because he doesn't overdo it. I think sometimes and he's not necessarily a running half, but that's where some running halves get into an issue as well, where they sort of try and force themselves a little bit too much, I think. But I think he's got it down to a pretty
that he's strong
good
as
science.
fuck. I think he's just a really strong,
small, strong man. 39 missed tackles from the Dolphins. I don't have the Dragon stat, but I think it was like a lot less in that one. So, and I think a lot of that 21. There you go. And I think a lot of that sort of maybe came more towards the edges. As I said, in the middle, the Dolphins were working hard in their defence. But Blake Laurie, again, we give him raps most weeks, but it just is what it is. And ever since that week where
he's the best forward on the field.
Where I thought ever since I thought he scored his first try ever that week, it seems like he just scores every week now. He gets at least one. Lemuelu as well, I've got to give out of those Dolphins 6 defenders, I've got to give him the special shout. He did the most work there, as you said, the 41 tackles.
Very good.
And the Dragons' back 5 all ran for at least 100 metres. You can sort of expect that out of them, at least in attack. It could be risky, and they open themselves up to making a lot of errors, but they definitely do have, we bring up speed. They've got speed in their back line. Yeah. So when they are up against a team that's maybe down on troops like the Dolphins are, or some of the worst teams in the competition, you sort of see them start to light up. And again, it's all off the back of the puppet master, as he said, Ben Hunt, getting some good ball out to them as well. And yeah, look, credit to the Dolphins forwards, I'd say, for holding in there. But at the end of the day, the class of Ben Hunt sort of rose above, and the Dragons, to their credit, the rest of the side sort of rose with him.
Yeah, well, the Dolphins did fight really hard in their first half, but they're probably redlining at the moment. Realistically, they've been up for the first 4.5 weeks of the competition. They've now lost 2 halves in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You're relying on a young kid who's 19, playing 7, and he had to play 6 in this game as well.
And he's been out for a week with injury as well.
He was trying to do everything he could. I thought he was actually quite good, to be honest. In a team that didn't have a lot of options, he was providing something, but. Yes, O'Sullivan's a big out for them. And then Milford after 17 minutes never really helps. Dragons, after about 20, 25 minutes, just took absolute control of this match and never let it go. Laurie crashes over in the first half, and, And then Hunt just absolutely took control of the game, kicked into corners, ran the ball, as you mentioned, good in defence, and then just started putting his outside backs away time after time. They Dolphins just didn't have any real attacking options. I think young Bostock went over twice and ended up in touch both times, the poor bloke. But there's a spark out there, but they need obviously some blokes on the inside that can get it out to him. It's just, they didn't really have any field position or attacking options where Ben Hunt had it all and, cashed in on it. There's no really overly good performance out of the Dolphins. Katoa, I thought, was good, being the main point of attack. Bromwich and Lemueli worked really hard. Oh, well, you can add Gilbert to that. They worked really hard, but they didn't really impact the game, apart from, doing their job and doing it quite well. Jeremy Marsh-King was very good. He was probably the other point of attack that they did have, and every game I think he's played, he's been close to their best player, and was again in this one. And Asako with a try assist, and 7 tackle bust was the Dolphins' best when he did get the opportunities out wide.
He actually has a good year. We've at times been critical, but he's had a pretty good year this year.
Lomax and Little were quite good for the Dragons, I thought. They did a good job in the middle of the field. Had Josh Kerr again playing really strongly at the moment for this team, and it's probably their biggest go forward man, or the biggest player that they have realistically in this squad, and he's doing a job. DeBellum was pretty good off the bench. Bird, Ravalawa, and Sloan really chimed in when needed and provided a link and some really good tough carries as well.
It's not a revelation, but he's a good player, Jack Bird. He had that nice try assist, and he's just got the ability.
That's why I was stunned last week when they played him off the bench. I have no idea why you would put him on the bench when he's consistently a good, a decent threat in and around the field.
I think one of the chairs got moved. They're moving the chairs in down there.
Okay, sorry.
But yeah, they chimed in really nicely, and Laurie was the best forward again on the field, and Ben Hunt was tremendous. He was the best player on the field.
Yep.
By a fair way.
Anything else we've got to talk about here, really? Dolphins might be, I think you may put a pin in them.
For a couple of weeks at least. Yeah, absolutely.
Dragons, I don't know what their draw looks like immediately, but are they going to trouble teams, or is this just,
Give them enough opportunity, they will. If they, another team similar to Newcastle, there's some points there. They've got some big, strong outside backs, and if they're in the fight in the middle of the field, they're probably going to score enough points to be able to win. It's just whether they can keep the other team from scoring enough points to beat them.
All right, 3 to Hunt, 2 to Laurie.
Yep.
1 to...
I had Bird or Asako, but...
Go Bird. Alrighty, we get to this fine game, which, as I said, I went back and watched for some sick reason. 46 to 12, the competition front runners beat the competition back runners.
Cellar dwellers.
Cellar dwellers. Let's go with that. What the stats say, Barn.
We had 8 tries to 2, 7 out of 8 conversions, and 2 out of 2 for the Tigers. 36 out of 47 sets, played 25 out of 34. 510 plus running metres for the Broncos. 9 line breaks to 3, 26 tackle busts to 20, 12 offloads to 13, 2 forced dropouts forced by the Tigers. No 40-20s. 255 tackles made by the Broncos, 322 made by the Tigers. 2 ruck infringements against both sides, 1 inside the 10 against Brisbane, 3 against the Tigers. 2 penalties conceded to 8, 15 errors for the Broncos, 11 for the Tigers. Capewell made 29 tackles, Papali'i with 32, Cobbo with 234 running metres, Dwayhe, Doohy, does he, will he, 143 running metres. Supercoach points, Payne Haas with 95, Walsh with 95, and 2 other Broncos before you got to Papali'i from the Tigers on 70.
What did we say?
Well, you went and watched it.
Dorks.
Say something.
Yeah, I was sad afterwards.
I was sad.
I love Brisbane. I love watching Brisbane play. I like the way they play. I like a lot of their players. So that was less sad. But
yeah, do you guys also, when your team loses to a really, really good team, it doesn't feel...
Have you watched football?
Doesn't feel as bad? Like it just sort of...
No, this felt pretty bad.
Oh,
but not really, because there's nothing left. There's no badness left to feel. It just I'm empty inside, like I have been for 38 years on this earth. They have not done anything to help me. But they.
Are you okay, bro?
They.
They gave you one good year. What do you want?
I'm sick of talking about it because you know what? they have no spine. There's just no spine. Dewey isn't a fullback. He's not a fullback's arsehole. And
Not interested at fullback
and what annoys me is when you put the bloke back there, and Tim Sheens can't say he's the best fullback in the club because he had to, and to not even try, especially defensively, is average. He has no interest in a support play, being a support player as a fullback. He just wanders around the field sort of aimlessly at times. And then what am I supposed to say about Luke Brooks and the rest of them? So I've got nothing to say. I want to say that Sean Bloor had his best game first grade. I thought he was
He
outstanding.
did. He was fantastic.
I thought he was on both sides of the field, defensively and attacking. He was fantastic. He was easily Tigers. Oh, I'd say easily. He was Tigers' best puppy. He's fine. He's nice enough. Bateman tries hard. Yeah, the frauds try hard. They're just like they get down there, and then everyone looks at each other and goes, "Oh, we're fucked again." And then someone throw. Have you ever seen a team throw more 100-metre tries to the other team?
The Bateman pass off of Papa.
But isn't that just symptomatic of what the fuck is going on? No one knows where anyone's supposed to be or what they're supposed to be doing or where they're supposed to be pushing up. So they lob a ball at the back, and then if someone catches it and runs under it. Yep. I think it's every game this year, so at least one or two.
It's at least been 3 or 4.
Definitely in the Bulldogs game. Definitely in this game. Definitely a Titans. And there was another one where there's been 80-metre tries because some idiot pops a ball to someone that's not there, or the idiot's not there and someone pops a ball to him, and someone goes, "Oh, thanks, I'll take it," and then no one's quick enough to run them down. And I actually think we've got some decent-sized, skilled outside backs. I think Capella's having his best year.
Yes.
And I think Tupou can be something. But when I back other slow back lines, but they just exist. They're just there.
They don't get any clean ball.
No.
Never get clean ball. There's always someone in their face by the time they get it.
And anytime we'll march 70 metres upfield, and then it's a 7-tackle set.
The Tigers matched it for about 6 minutes, and there was a nice play down the left-hand side where Kapoa got through and then put Supu down the left-hand edge. And the kick was probably a little misdirected, but they got the ball back, and then that was pretty much it. Yep. It was a dumb penalty, and then it was 28-0 at half-time.
So the outrage is being about the board now because I guess they've got to be outraged about something. And then I don't disagree with it, so that's all fine commentary in the media. But what am I going to say about Tigers games anymore? Because it's the same story every week until something changes. It won't change this week because guess what? We've got the same 2 pot plants in the middle of the field. So I'm not going to bore everyone with that. Like I said, apart from wrapping a couple of blokes I did. Brisbane are a good team. They're still premiership favourites. I think, and looking at their draw, they will struggle to lose before Origin, really. They'd have to turn up and not play well. But they're up-tempo. Their forwards just march. They've got the big tag team through the middle, which we've talked about, but everyone conversely knows their role. They're now waking Stags up, who gets to be flattered by playing teams like the Tigers, but fast outside footwork backs that score points. And Reece Walsh is probably going to be by the year, I see, when we sit down and talk about it. It's a long way to go, but when we sit down and talk about it, he offers a dozen points to this team, which is already a good team.
Another one that's just got acceleration and pace and can get on the outside of the defender.
We saw it with Sloan as well, in the last game, but which I didn't really try a minute. But when you're here and you're half through a line and you're able to just burn them, it's gold.
And you've already attracted 2 defenders, and that 3-on-3 is now turned into a 2-on-3 or a 1-on-3 on your outside edge, and good luck defending against that. As I said, 28 points in 30 minutes for to end the first half. That the first try with Ricky, that right foot step was that good that Brooks just had to sit down and tap him on the arse as he ran past him. Well done, mate.
I think I said I'm actually going to watch this game. And 7 minutes, and I sent Barney a message, just said this was a mistake. And it's just Luke Brooks falling over.
He dead set sat down and tapped him on the arse as he ran past. It was a good moment in the game. He's just that confused, he just sat down. Yep, well done. And then it was 5 or 10 minute intervals between the Broncos scoring points for pretty much the rest of the game. They scored every 5 or 10 minutes for the rest of the game, and the Tigers just could not stop them whatsoever. And it came off the back of Haas and Carrigan just tearing through the middle of this Tigers defence, and they had no real answers. If it wasn't Carrigan popping balls back out for Haas to then go another 10 metres and then another offload, and it ended up being chaos at the back end of the game. Some really nice offloads, skill and pace out wide. Completely tore him apart. There's a nice grab there for Papali'i for his try, the little kick where he's managed to somehow scoop it up just before it hits the ground and score, but that was about as good as it got for the for the Tigers. The Broncos targeted the halves in defence for the Tigers. Like, they went at Brooks constantly. They went at, who was playing? Wakeham on the other side, and they just scored a whole shit ton of points straight through where the halves were defending. Short kicks in and behind the line with rushing defence, and no Dewey there to clean it up. No winger coming folding back across.
Not even within QE.
There was 2 or 3 tries where Blakes put the ball down and there was no one within 5-10 metres of it. Like, they just fell on a ball and
I don't know if they have to
scored
wait
a
around
try.
10, but at some point, if he's serious and if with where they're supposedly heading, they need to pull the trigger on some of the freaking reserve grade players, the Magpie players, or the Howard Matts player, the other one, not the other one.
SG Ball.
SG Ball players, like your ballers of the world who have points in them, have pace, and give them a go.
Stafford Toll was the best of the back 5, and he was pretty ordinary, especially in defence. But he was the best of the back 5. There was no great decent ball to get out to the backs, which doesn't help. But Clemmer, Twile, and Bateman were okay. Stefano off the bench was pretty good. Confusing me why they started him off the bench. I have no idea why you would be starting him off the bench, considering he's been close to their best forward for the most of the season.
Maybe protect him from getting bashed early.
Yeah, maybe. And Blore and Papali'i were the best of the Tigers, by a long way. And you could go through pretty much the whole Broncos side, but Carrigan and Cobbo did a really good job. I thought Reynolds was fantastic as well, as well as capable. Ricky had a really good game, and Tapau off the bench was actually, did a job without, kicking the door down. He was quite good. Payne Haas was just a destroyer in this game.
Ollie?
Well, just quickly to the point on Brisbane possibly not losing the game going into the Origin period. I've got their games heading into Magic round here. They obviously take on Manly in round 10 in Magic round, which I would argue is their next sort of kind of challenging game, because this week they've got the Raiders, then they got the Titans, then they got the Eels, who, they should beat Parramatta, even if that could be a sort of close game, but they get the win. Yeah. And then the most challenging one it depends on how their 4 weeks go, South Sydney, but right now you'd be tipping Brisbane against South Sydney as well, heading into Magic round.
If their middle stays fit, they'll destroy every one of those teams. Remember what they did to Parramatta last year? Just through the middle? They just said, you can't even match what we're doing here. That's it. It's,
Yeah. And look, I don't have too much to add on the game. It was the quintessential undefeated team going up against the team that's not won a game this year. And sort of, I know I've been a bit harsh on the Tigers. You've mentioned it a couple of times with my sort of negativity towards them. But, this is why. Like, no, you're right. I'm just like, there's a reason why I'm usually very Penrith positive as well. It's because they're a very good team, and why I'm sort of Tigers negative is like, it's just hard to, I just can't find anything positive. I might have been a bit harsh at the start of the year. No, I know you guys had them.
I broke what I said that I'd tip them again a couple weeks back, and I would never tip them.
Yeah. Well, usually around when they verse South Sydney is when you get back on them.
Easter against Para's the other game, but
that's the thing.
Not now. They're a worse team than they were last.
It sort of
somehow.
Even with the new signings,
a more lost team. Anyway.
Yeah, even with the new signings, the big thing for me, and it's funny how it's come up in the media this week, but I honestly don't see this team making the top 8 until they have a full clean out, even with the board, and just sort of completely try and change. I don't like the culture of the club. Like it's obviously been, and because you hear all the behind the scenes stories and the stuff where players aren't happy with the coach, etc., and players aren't happy with Pascal, whatever. It seems like it's got to the point now with the Tigers, and I think the Dragons are actually very close to this as well. Although the Dragons are still putting in some good performances, they're getting towards this territory where it's the on-field performances are not just because of the talent that's on the field, because there are talented players at the Tigers. Like
in the comp
are well run,
are privately owned or run by particular board.
And the thing is with Penrith, they came up with that philosophy years ago of just absolutely nurturing the juniors, and that's sort of what the Tigers are trying to do at this point. I just think under the current regime, that's already sort of left a mark on the club, I guess you could say. I think there just needs to be a change, and you know what, during that period, the Tigers might still run last 2 out of 3 years or whatever, but at least just something there needs to be big change because they've brought in different coaches and not worked. This year, heading into this season, was probably on paper the best recruitment they had done in a couple of years with Appy and Papali'i, but it's just...
And I don't think any of the recruits are doing wrong.
Well, they're not. You brought up how the Fords are trying hard,
like,
but yeah, it's just that rate. It's just that sort of dark.
There's literally none.
Pretty
There's
simple.
none.
There's nobody putting
There's
anyone
none.
into holes. Like, you can have your forwards going chewing up metres through the middle of the field, but if you've got no one breaking, putting blokes onto good ball to be able to break tackles,
and in the minute you do, you're fucking giving away a 7-tackle set and marching back the other way anyway. Like, it's exhausting for them. It's just demoralising for the players. Obviously, it is for me. If you
one decent half would make a massive difference.
We've been talking about this bloke how he shouldn't be playing in the halves, but at this point, is it worth the Tigers giving Whiten $1 million for a year or two?
He's not a ball player. He's not a game controlling half, but who is so.
But at the top, that's what is it
try
worth
and
that
set
for
one
the
up each
Tigers?
week,
Like, is it worth that
They're
for
probably,
them?
You know, it wouldn't surprise if they didn't. If they haven't, I'd be shocked. So because they're desperate, given they're trying to get Pearce for 18 months, I assume they're going to just go gung ho for George Williams in 2025. But it's how we then get in between.
Apparently, they offered him this year, and he's knocked them back. So.
St Helens knocked him back, and he, I guess, whatever. Not say who he's in.
No, apparently he said he's happy where he is, and he wants to win where he is. But
Dodd's on the table, Wellesby's on the table, so fucking just go and do it.
Even just get a young kid, as I mentioned before off air, someone like Riley Rivet up at Newcastle, Nira Piru at the Sharks, who's a 5'8", who can do something.
I think their halves are carving up in underage.
Put them in, fuck. Give them a go.
By round 10, I reckon we'll see someone. I reckon you'll see Baller, or it's because there has to be a directive, and surely Sheens is.
Let's move on, because I can see the life draining out of your eyes as long as we continue this discussion.
If Luke Brooks plays 7 for the rest of the year, then Sheens is taking a piss.
If you see Tim Sheens turn up soon with dyed jet black hair and a thin moustache that's like on top of his lip, I'd be very worried. That's all I'm saying.
Anyway. Jesus. Payne Haas would have got the 12 points for the Dally M, I would imagine. They give out 12 these days.
I thought it was 100. I thought it was 100.
He would have got all the points. So he's getting my 3. I had Reynolds with 2, and then I either had Ricky, or you could give a Tiger 1 if you wanted to.
No, give it to Ricky. Fuck him. The only one I would have given to, I would give one to Sean Blore.
Or Papali'i.
Maybe this does sound weird, but I know you've mentioned
Ricky scored 2 tries. You can't give one to Blore.
I know you've mentioned it on the show already, but for me, this was the most blatant week of how good Reynolds is and how he is probably the form halfback in the competition. Just the way, like, even though... Because it wasn't that he was the star of every single play, but every single big play he played a part in.
There's a discussion to be had. I imagine it will never happen because they won't. But if we're sitting around the table picking Origin, you would throw out, do we pick Reynolds at 7 and Cleary at 6? Or
as an out-and-out 7, controlling number 7, he's probably the best one running around at the moment.
Yeah.
His kicking game is on point. He very rarely miskicks an infield kick.
Yeah. I think his love in life hasn't been brilliant lately. He gets to be Mr. Dinner Suit.
And he doesn't.
He's got the best forward pack in the competition.
He's not charging into the line and throwing the balls like at the line and after the line, but getting them into position consistently, set after set. He's probably the best one.
And he's also still happy enough to chip and chase himself, or do stuff like that as well.
And specifically in Origin,
but in terms of that as well, though, we will get to Nico, who. Dead set now should like he has. If he has a leap from Blue Eye, then they're off their head.
Anyway,
but just to the point on Origin specifically, if you did have Cleary and Reynolds, you talk about Reynolds possibly playing in a dinner suit. Cleary in state of origin, no matter, even when he's had his down periods not doing much in attack, he still makes like 25 tackles per game in origin.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, so he's actually he'd be a better sixth.
I just don't know if there's enough footwork between the two of them.
And also, they don't need to. You know? Like, what does Reynolds actually add that Cleary won't add?
You want that extra bit of acceleration and footwork in origin to be able to break open an edge and work with your back rowers.
You're almost better off looking for a
Nico.
You don't play two game controllers. You go and get Nico, or you go and find a Wade Graham type, or a who's a Greg Bird sort of type. Like someone's going to barge your door down. A Jack White.
Bash the ball down. Yeah, bash the ball down.
Actually, like Whiten could play 6 if they needed him to in that setup, because you're just going to go and find Latrell and you just go bring Campbell Graham in at centre, and who cares?
Or pick Luai and Cleary, which they will.
Which they will anyway. So, which becomes interesting, because where Whiten ends up is Very interesting.
You're almost better picking Nico or Walker, in my opinion, over Luai at the moment.
Play Latrell at 5'8".
They'll play White at 5'8" before they play Latrell at 5'8".
No, yeah, that's
I know what you're saying, but it'll be Tommy. Like, why are we talking about this? Because who cares? But it will be Teddy, 2-0. Fox will be there because he'll have to be because they'll burn. What is it called these days? They call down. Latrell, Turbo.
all 5 of them.
But Nico, by all rights, should be 6 or even a crack at 6 at least, if not at 14.
See how it goes over the next month. But
Anyway, that all being said, let's get to Sunday.
Oh, let's get to Nico. Oh,
Talk about Nico for a bit. You Nico fans.
Sharks 30, Warriors 32. 5 tries apiece, 4 out of 5 conversions for the Sharks, 5 out of 5 for the Warriors. 1 out of 2 penalty attempts for Cronulla and 1 out of 1 for the Warriors. 34 out of 43 sets played, 34 out of 40. 450 plus running metres and 178 plus post-contact metres for the Sharks. 5 line breaks to 3, 30 tackle busts to 39, 8 offloads to 3, 1 forced dropout played 2, no 40-20s, 320 tackles played 330, 2 ruck infringements against the Sharks, 2 inside the 10s against the Warriors. 5 penalties conceded to 7, 10 errors to 9, a sin bin from both teams. Brayley with 40 tackles, Ford with 41, Ramian with 188 running metres, and Charles Nickel-Clockstad with 203. Sean Johnson with 117 Supercoach points, Hines with 102, and Kennedy with 92.
Well, I assume this is the greatest comeback in Warriors history. I haven't even looked at that. Someone will tell me otherwise. But usually around your 20 or 22 nils are up there. But I would also suggest that Sharks did their best not to win the second half, and and the Warriors exposed. We've said for 2 years now that Sharks can't win the comp with the 5'8" they've got, and geez, they blew his left and right shoulders off, didn't they?
No, fuck me swinging, mate. There's another game the Sharks just let go, just like the Raiders game. They just thought we'll just kick it and tackle our way to victory, and last year they probably would have done it. And they probably would have conceded 4 points in the second half, and just that would have been the end of the game.
The most boring half of all time.
Absolutely, and they would have got another 2 points, but they fucking let it go. And it was the ball handling again, and Mulatalo for all his yapping and carrying on when he's scoring 2 tries, and then he goes and drops 2 bombs, one that goes directly to Sean Johnson for a try, and another one which sets up field position for him to score another try where they blow off Moylan's left shoulder and straight under next to the post. There was 2 tries directly from kicks. One was Katoa dropped it. They scored. One was Mulatano dropped it. They scored. The other 3 were directly through Matt Moylan. 2 were straight at him. One was both of the ones that were straight at him were on his left shoulder. The other one was Edward Cossey cutting back off the wing, who just ran straight over the fucking top of him and then scored. So there's the 5 tries. There's the 5 tries that the Warriors scored directly from drop balls and Matt Moylan.
if only Cronulla had a player, and I'm not even on the defensive side of things, but if only they had a player with a bit of X factor who could run the ball really well at 6 and just give sort of an added dimension that the players that might or might not specifically be at Newcastle now. Anyway,
I'm not a coach,
like
but
a Luke Brooks sort of player. Or
yeah, Luke Brooks definitely.
A Lachlan Miller,
or a Luke Metcalf even
mentioned quite a few, or a Braden Trindle that's sitting on the bench who's actually really good in defence.
But that's like when Nico was out. Like I'm sorry, when Nico was out, and Moylan had a couple of good games too, but Trindle was outperforming Moylan.
His dead set got a short pass. He grab and pass and give it to the next bloke who scores a try.
At training, do we just not see, but at training when they try to partner Nico and Trindle together, is it just absolutely horrible when Nico becomes the worst player in the world? Because I genuinely, they haven't
Nico
tried that in 2 years yet, have they? They have not tried that halves partnership.
But yeah, as our mate Action Bailey said in the chat, old origami shoulders, because all he could do was fold paper with those fucking things, because he can't make a decent tackle with them, that's for sure. He was the reason they lost this game, and the Sharks set up some nice tries. They put some balls through the hands, especially early in the game. There's a couple of nice crossfield kicks that were dragged down, and the Sharks looked well on top in the first 20 minutes, and looked like it was going to be just like resuming from last week. And then as I said, they decided they were going to kick their way to victory and try to tackle their way to victory, and they coughed up the ball and made really shit fucking one-on-one tackles, and they ended
Mick
up.
loved the game.
Mick's already given me a serve earlier. He asked me where my jersey was and told me how good Matt Moylan's defence is. And, yeah.
He's got something to say here. Yeah.
Oh, Nia Kore's one was not a fucking hip
Nah,
drop.
that was bullshit.
That was... And to go back 4 tackles is just fucking stupidity.
No, it's just it's wet. They're running. He's sliding. Where else he's going to go? You can't flip off.
Yeah, we mentioned it earlier. I think it had a lot more to do with just the ground being wet and the players pulling through tackles. They don't intentionally go in behind and drop their weight on the player. They're just getting dragged behind someone like Talakai or getting dragged behind. I'm not sure who it was on with Finnegan, but he just dragged in behind the tackle. He didn't intentionally put his weight on the back of the legs.
No.
But Dale's one was probably worse than Niakora's one, though.
Yeah.
Niakora's
was nothing. He
shouldn't have been a penalty.
He was falling the other way anyway.
Never been
he
a
was
penalty.
falling the other way.
Just Talakai running through the line and Niakora doing his best to hang on and try and drag him to the ground.
You must be happy, though, Mick. You must be happy with Headed. They're good discipline. They're like a good team now.
Yeah, it's good. I think it just starts from the top,
Yeah.
It's a completely different mindset. They're just playing for 80 minutes. They've got some workers in the middle of the field, and Sean Johnson's back to close to his best footy. He's not running and tearing the game up with his footwork, but his ball playing and his kicking's been tremendous this season.
I think it's the whole 2 years apart from their family, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And that makes a difference for those
you
who
saw
can't hear on radio, but the difference is being home with the family.
You saw the smile on Johnson's face, you know, like at the end of the game, and the way he was dropping F-bombs left, right and centre post-match
But it's back to
conference.
what you're right. It's back to what they were in 2019, where you had to beat them. If you went over there, you had to beat them to.
Yeah, well,
to step
Johnson
up.
came out and said, you know, there was a 2-year period there where he spent about 3 months with his missus and his kid.
Yeah.
You know, he's got a little kid at home and a wife at home, and you spend 12 weeks out of 2 years with them.
Yeah.
Like, how's that going to affect your head? That's can't be good.
No.
Yeah.
Well, saying
absolutely.
even Reece Walsh had the same thing. There's a few others in the similar boat. That's right, and you bring in the biscuits for them.
But yeah, you have to give kudos to the Warriors. Their defence this year is completely different to what it has been in previous years. They're a much fitter side, and they're just determined as fuck to continually turn up play after play. Like, they're not just sitting back and someone else will do the job. There's 4 blokes there trying to do the same job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that hasn't been that way for a long time. The desire in this team is fantastic, and
But as I said, that's
really
what
enjoying each other's company.
That's what got them through to what 2011. Which one were they?
Oh,
Close.
the grand final that they got to 2011. Yeah.
2011. Well, when they beat Tigers in the fucking game.
It's always got to come back to the Tigers. I feel bad
That's
now.
right. I remember it was 2011. It was that sort of team. They were just you had to beat them, and that's what even like I said, even back in '89, like if you went there, they were going to be the grinding team, and they just missed that for a couple of years.
And the fact that Barnett's still out and not in there, that only adds a string to their bow when he comes back.
And they've got the option of Metcalf at 14 if they want him.
Volkman wasn't really involved in this game, but still did enough, you know, to put in a decent shift out of Ronald Volkman. But yeah, they do have better options there in Martin, and I think Metcalf probably is even a better option outside of Sean Johnson if they bring him in.
Dylan Walker's suddenly a beast. Tavanga's suddenly a
fucking
beast.
Absolutely killing it. He's just bouncing blokes off left, right, and centre. And it left me a very unhappy David at the end of this game.
Very unhappy David. He's unhappy David. But what did you make of that last? Well, I still don't know what the penalty was for Curran, and it was.
Well, apparently it was the Royce Hunt push, which when you see Curran first goes through the line, he basically puts his hands on him and then drops his hands. There was no effect on the play whatsoever. No. Moylan did sort of jostle with the shoulder on the ball.
You're allowed to jostle.
I don't think it should have been a penalty.
To me, it felt like a clear square up 30 seconds later.
Yeah.
And it was Royce Hunt too. He's starting to get a bit of a reputation as well. So
he's been a bit of a peanut.
What do you make of all of it?
Well, one thing I really want to emphasise, we mentioned it specifically in that game against Canberra, what Cronulla were doing because of how we're talking about how their tries were just a lot better than Canberra's. I'm going out on a limb. I'm saying Cronulla is the best team in the competition at shifting the ball left or right whilst keeping momentum going and going through. And because it was Ronaldo's first try. Yeah, well,
the Niokora try.
Yeah, well, Ronaldo's first try, right? They just shifted out to the left, and it's just the way that they keep in motion as they do it. They don't stagnate at all, and it's as if, well, they've obviously been training to do it, but how many times do you see teams start to do that, and then it'll get to the second row or get to the centre, and they sort of stop and don't know, and then they'll maybe force it, but it's just seamless. They did that to the left, and then they did it to the right for Katoa's try, and then they went back to the right, and it got to Kennedy, and without hesitation, again, like they'd rehearsed it, showed the little dummy, and was through. Like that, I think Cronulla do that better than any other team in the competition, and it shows because they consistently go back to it, and it consistently works.
Yeah, their defence has fallen away massively from last year, but it's all in and around Moylan. And if it's not Moylan, it's Talakai trying to cover for Moylan, and it's a shit show out there at the moment.
And I've got to kind of apologise to Chance Nickel-Kluckstad here because he's had a great season. He had a great game as well when he was someone I was sort of questioning coming to this Warrior side just because he'd been playing Reggie's at Canberra for a year as well.
It tells you how much Canberra know what they're doing.
Well, yeah.
But also, like we've said,
they could do with a fullback right now.
Getting home, getting back up in it, get into a system. He always had talent. He's a grand final fullback.
And he was fantastic that year.
He was their best player that year.
I'll never forget, and he's never really come back from it, but I remember in the opening rounds of the 2021 season when Canberra were coming off of making the finals in 2020 and they were against Penrith. I was at the game at Penrith, and Canberra was sort of just hanging in there, and he's just a reliable fullback. Like, you're going to trust him under the high ball. You're going to trust him when there's pressure near his own line, and he got injured about 20 minutes into that game when he was sort of being the reason why Penrith weren't really getting too many opportunities off of dumb Canberra mistakes down that end of the field. And he went off and he was gone from, half the season from then. And they were interchanging fullbacks for the next few weeks and they were losing games. And the big reason is just because he was, and it's just because he was safe. He wasn't necessarily actively amazing like a Teddy or whatever, but he was just safe.
I think he went away, I think he went away and he bulked up a lot, and then he had a couple of I think he had a leg injury because he slowed down a bit. But now it feels like he's slimmed back down, and he feels like he's sharp and his footwork's good, and his decision making's great. He's obviously a very good organising defensive fullback, and that was always one of his strengths.
Yeah. Royce Hunt and Moylan, they had absolute shockers in this game. Rudolph and Wilton were decent. So was Finucane. Talakai, Mulatano and Nakora were really strong at different times, and Ramian and Hines were the best two players for the Sharks. Chance was the best of the back five for the Warriors. I thought he was enormous, as you guys have said. Fanua Blake, Niokore and Ford were really good in the middle of the field. Yep. They probably didn't win the battle, but they went a long way towards doing it. But the three of them, Egan was very good again. He's proved himself as a top-class hooker in the last couple of years.
I threw it into one of our chats that he's a top 5 hooker, and then I realised there's lots of good hookers. But he's up there. He's a world-class hooker, and he's a top 10.
On his day, he's as good as most of them.
Defensively, he doesn't miss tackle. It's like they all defend the same, but he's good for a try every week. He's good for a couple of crash plays every week. He's just got timing now and nous, which I guess comes with confidence as well. Yeah,
Tavanga was fantastic, and
he was
Sean Johnson was putting,
put on a really good performance. Where Sean Johnson's been for a couple of years.
Without blowing the team away, he was just getting them into the right spots, causing problems on both sides of the field.
The closest I can think of is, and I don't make it about time, but when Benji realised it's not about being Benji, it's about
come back from the Broncos.
Being how I then get these blokes around the field.
He slowed down a little bit, but he's making sure they're in the right spots.
But he runs enough
he's causing problems.
I saw the quote where he goes, "I keep getting told I need to run more because I'm not a fucking front rower."
He does get into the line, and he does. But his ball playing is putting people in really good positions, and he was the man of the match for me. 3 points to him. Tavanga with 2. And then I either had Hines or Ramian for the one.
I think Ramian. Ramian was great. Just to add a little...
Ramian's had a good year.
Yeah,
Ramian's had a very good year.
Little cherry on top, though, for Sean Johnson. He also made 24 tackles.
Yeah, which you don't see out of him very often. Yeah.
Well, and it's just seeing a bunch. We didn't really hammer it enough, but at the end of the day, Sharks still scored 30 points. In tackle-wise, it's all we know. You know exactly what your issue is, and
Yeah, absolutely.
but we're going to turn up and have
And
the
the worst
same
part
thing.
with the Raiders was it was goal line stuff, which wasn't the problem in this one, apart from one player.
Yeah.
And then a couple of dropped balls. Their ball handling is as bad as anyone at times,
Yeah.
the Sharks. They can go for 10 or
They-
15-minute
and
periods
you touched
where
on
they
it,
just drop the fucking thing time and time
they
again.
do have a little bit of pumpkin
Yeah.
in and
There's a
around
couple
that
of
team.
them. Yeah, there's
Well,
Ramian used to. He's not so much anymore.
Mulatalo
But yeah, Mulatalo,
actively
Royce Hunt, Rudolph gets a bit of the pumpkin
Hamlin
about
Uele's good
him.
for it.
ULE gets a bit of it in him. Yeah, so
Yeah. And Ollie, get your thoughts quickly because you did tip the Warriors for the spoon.
I also,
How you feeling about that?
well, I also tipped Cronulla to win the comp, so my wooden spoon tip just beat my premiership
Yeah.
tip. So I'm well on.
Happens to the best of us.
I'm not on the roof. I'm on the skyscraper at this point, honestly. But no,
at
I've
least you're going to do it properly.
I've obviously I've,
Not like me, just jumping off the first level,
I've,
getting sore legs every week.
I've been very surprised by the Warriors, and you know what? Usually when the team I tip for the spoon overperforms at first, I like to go a bit hard on. Oh no, it's coming. They'll drop off. Yeah,
Nah,
it's
they're
coming. But last year, North Queensland taught me a lesson.
They're a completely fucking different side. this year.
And I'm actually very happy for the Warriors.
But genuinely,
very happy.
What is great is that we always throw out they're in and around the 7 and 8. There's 8 teams in and around the 7.
They're dead
There's
set.
8 teams in that middle of comp.
If
that
they
anyone-
win 4 out of the next 8,
They'll
they're probably going to make that.
Well, they're coming second now, so they're out. And same as Newcastle.
And they
Newcastle
may
string a couple
even
together.
win more than 4 out of their next 8.
Newcastle are going to be a little bit origin proof with that gay guy, maybe Frizzell in there.
Warriors are
Origin proof.
I think as well.
And that's where you pick up 6 points there. And then all of a sudden you can't miss. And that's where you if you're a Cowboys or you're a especially
Cowboys, Sharks
you're
at the
nervous.
moment.
Which is proving for us.
Parramatta's-
Manly, Manly can go one to another. Apart from 2.5 teams, depending where
Souths at the
Dragons go.
moment.
Yeah, Souths could miss the 8, not shock. But I feel like Melbourne,
It's just so close.
Melbourne have 3 players that are going to drag them kicking and screaming down.
Well, there's 2 or 3 teams that look like they're going to end up in the top 4, and there's 2 or 3 teams that look like they're going to end up in the bottom 4, and the rest of them fucking
which
do
is
your
amazing.
best.
Realistically,
throw
you
it
can
all
only-
up in the
I could
air
rubber
and
stamp the Chooks.
see what happens.
I could rubber stamp the Chooks and Penrith for top 5, and after that, if you told me Para could finish 4th or 12th.
10th, yeah.
It's apart from the Tigers and the Raiders.
I know because of what happened last year, it makes me kind of hesitant, but Brisbane are very close to being an absolute lock for me
they're
as
very
well.
close.
Oh no! Sorry, I should say Brisbane are.
Sorry,
And
I already think
Brisbane
they're
are
a
better
lock for
that.
top 8, but I'm talking top 4 here.
No, Brisbane are better for that run last year, as I've said.
Hopefully. We'll see how they end up.
Isn't
coming
it
out
going to
the back
be
of Origin.
insane when we have a Warriors-Brisbane grand
'Cause they're
final
going to have
this year?
7 blokes in Origin. So
If not more.
there may be a
that's
downturn
true.
out the back of
Cast,
Origin.
Carrigan, Welsh,
Yeah, but
Flegler.
Wouldn't be surprised if they dropped 3 or 4 spots
Hey,
back end of Origin.
well,
But if
I'm
they've
still
won,
not gonna
but if
give-
they've won
yeah, yeah.
13 straight,
I'm going to say, I'm not going to say that they'll
all
fall
they
out of the
need-
8.
and I've not seen
26
it.
points gets you. They'll have it by round 13.
I've not seen their draw, but all they need is a buy-in to versus the Tigers and Raiders during that period, and they might go the year undefeated. Who knows?
All right, let's get off this one.
Yeah.
Finished the round with another little rib tickler, 15-14. The rib tickler, ball terror, something in between.
Let's not tear any balls, eh?
The Bulldogs and Cowboys with a Burton clutch field goal and a coming of age of Jacob Preston, if he hasn't already.
Wasn't he
Outstanding
impressive?
game. Very
Jesus
good game. Barn,
Christ.
what do the stats tell us?
Let's find them. We had 3 tries. 3 tries for the Dogs, 2 for the Cowboys. 1 out of 3 conversions played, 2 out of 2. 1 out of 1 field goal attempts for the Dogs. 0 out of 1 2-point field goal attempts for the Cowboys, and 1 out of 2 penalty attempts for the Cowboys. 39 out of 48 sets played, 39 out of 45. 110 plus running metres for the Dogs. 5 line breaks to 3. 37 tackle busts for the Bulldogs, 43 for the Cowboys. 9 offloads to 5. 3 forced dropouts to 1. No 40-20s, so no, Reid did not kick a 40-20. 379 tackles played, 396. 2 ruck infringements from both teams. 1 inside the 10 against the Bulldogs. 8 penalties conceded to 6. 10 errors to 11. 1 sin bin for the Bulldogs. Reid with 48 tackles. Robson with 53. Carraz with 239 running metres. And Jason Tamalolo with 198. Preston with 108 Supercoach points. Lukey with 77. Josh Addo-Carr with 77. And Tom Chester with 77.
I think the first 15 or so minutes of this game were quite evenly matched in sort of different areas. I got a stat here from the first 15. The Cowboys had a 100% completion rate. The Dogs had an 80% completion rate, so they were sort of up there as well. But the Cowboys had not been in the Bulldogs 20, had not been tackled in the Bulldogs 20 at all. I know they got that try off Dearden, but that came obviously off the kick further back. So yeah, the Cowboys were disciplined early on, but the Bulldogs' defence was just not letting them get too far up the field, and that's sort of what kept the game close in the early going. But overall, I want to bring up Jacob Preston first because he's dead set not had a bad game in first grade yet. He's not even had an average game in first grade as of yet. He has been great every game he's played.
And there was spruik about him coming in, and he's well and truly lived up to that.
Carraz again, 239 run metres. It was a couple of... Was it that game against the Tigers where he ran for 300 odd? So hopefully, possibly you're getting consistent running metres from him. I don't think he scored in that game, and he didn't score in this game as well. So he's getting the metres, and I guess he's getting his team in a good position to maybe kick on from there. Hayes Perham as well, really good performance at fullback. 204 running metres, made 5 from 5 tackles. Obviously, 5 is not heaps, but for a fullback to not miss a single tackle, that is also very good. Corey Waddell is someone who is sometimes a bit hit and miss. 35 tackles, 187 run metres. Just for reference as well, Preston, 116 running metres, but 47 tackles as well. And I believe he scored a try as well, didn't he?
2, I think.
2.
Yeah, there you go. Jason Taumalolo as well, you bring up the run metres, 198, but he made 33 from 33 tackles as well. It was a classic Jason Taumalolo performance. Jordan McLean also stepped up to 23 out of 23 tackles. So again, early on, the Dogs were holding the Cowboys out from sort of that 20-metre zone and not letting them get too far up the field, but the Cowboys also had a couple of perfect defensive performances throughout the game, and it was indicative of how this game was played out. Obviously very close. All 5 of the Cowboys backs though ran for all 5 of their back 5, 1 to 5 obviously, ran for at least 120 run metres, and Reece Robson is someone whose dad was probably running at him at full pelt in the backyard as well. 53 tackles. He makes about 50 a game, but also Robson over 100 running metres, 103 running metres. He's usually one of those players who defends really well but doesn't get those running metres. So I think he's sort of running the ball a bit more as well, which is good.
I feel like he led that stat last year, though. I think he did lead the running metres last year.
He did. I remember there was a period where he did, but then he sort of stopped for a little while as well. His defence has remained solid throughout this entire time. Now, I don't know if this is actually right or if the NRL app has actually made a big mistake, but they've got Ockenbaugh down for 31 tackles. Is it just because it's Jaden Ockenbaugh? Is it just because it's Jaden Ockenbaugh? It's just not.
Yes, no,
it's not computed in my brain.
He played a bit of time in the
He did a pretty good job. He did a pretty good job, actually. And
apart from his bin.
So apart from his bin, apart from his bin.
Another hip drop that probably wasn't not intentional, but probably was close to the worst.
But
one
it's his go in life. Like if he's that big body, he's not that quick anymore. He's probably not that. To be honest, doesn't have the flair and skill that people thought he had. And shovel him into the middle, get him to tackle his ass off, or be a body in there. And I know it's sort of desperate times because the barrel's empty at the Bulldogs.
I mean, he's done a good
job. He's done a more than expectable job. And
There's
people that play in and around him in younger, I've seen some commentary actually from people who played with him younger age and reckons he's capable of doing that.
There's a couple of teams that are really stretched at the moment. If you look at the Cowboys are one. They're missing probably, I think, somewhere near 8 to 10 players. Your Dogs. Dolphins.
Roosters. Roosters are missing
Roosters
4 or 5, at least 4 or 5, but they're top liners. Yeah,
they're top blokes. But these two teams are both really stretched pretty thin at the moment.
Yeah,
probably
and that's not getting better for the Cowboys either.
No, they've just dropped another 2 for 2 or 3 weeks.
The sad thing is that's not the sad thing, but the problem is that the season gets away from you.
When Taumalolo went down from the hip drop and went off at first, it was very, very concerning. Just that added, like, imagine if he didn't come back on and was out for a while. But probably the gross moment of the week would have had to have been Jacob Preston splitting the webbing in his finger whilst poking
His
Max
mate
King in the eye and making Max King look like the hunchback of Notre Dame. But yeah, you see the footage, and at first
Max King's hair did him no favours, looking like the
hunchback
of Notre Dame either.
But the thing that sort of grossed me out, because at first you think he's dislocated his finger, and although it might not be like, it's probably pretty painful, but obviously not as serious an injury. But then you look and you see like the blood, like you can imagine, like, oh.
Yeah, it's not good. I've done it a couple of times trying to catch a cricket ball.
Oh.
It's not pleasant.
Let's not talk about cricket balls.
But yeah, that didn't stop Preston from having a great performance. So
absolutely killed it.
Maybe he needs to split another one next week.
They've unearthed a gem there. He's outstanding.
Well, Gould came out and said it about 2 months before the season started. Like, he is your what's his name? Back rower, Andrew Ryan type, like Josh Jackson type for the Bulldogs. It's just going to work his backside off for his entire career. Probably end up being a leader of the competition.
Josh Jackson not being there now.
Yeah, pushed him on the way out. Yeah, but he's still got some size to put on too. Like he's a pretty thin dude at the moment. Like he's going to fill out.
He doesn't need to. Depends where he ends up, but he doesn't need to.
He's in the back row, so he puts even 5 or 10 kilos of muscle on that frame. He will just be throwing blokes around, and like he's already pushing them off as it is. Like he'll just be starting to throw them away as he runs through. He was brilliant. I thought the Cowboys started better and probably with a better side for most of the first half. But they are real at the moment. They are struggling to break the defensive line. Yeah. Like they have very little options apart from the Dearden chip and chase where he scored. And
they get Drinkwater this week,
and they look to just at the moment. It's just like throw it to Val and hope Val does something. Yeah. Like there is not a lot of else that's going on. They're missing a worker or two. Tom Gilbert's gone up to the Dolphins,
which is exposed Nanai.
Yeah, absolutely, because he doesn't want to do the work unless he has to. Lukey's only played about a game and a half, I think, for this season.
They don't have that. They don't have a creative.
Taumalolo's the guy that will bust the door down and run through the middle of the field, but he's not the guy who's going to make 30, 40 tackles and clean up the middle of the field, which is what they're really crying out for at the moment.
It's funny when people rave about certain back rolls, or we rave about the best locks in the game, who do both.
Yeah,
but you sort of need, when you put your little building blocks together, you need a creative, someone with some spark in the back row, and then you also need
Dallas Johnson. He's going to make 45 tackles and do his 15 hit-ups.
Or Kurt Capel does a lot of that stuff at Brisbane now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we didn't mention his name, but you look at that Brisbane team and who, like, Capel is Mr. Fix-It at the back of it all,
Dearden doing, creating some sort of spark, but Chad's Chad. Chad doesn't really add spark, never has. He just gets you into position and relies on other people to do that for him. He put a couple of guys into some short ball holes last week, but that's what a decent half will do. They're really crying out for that X factor with Drinkwater that comes back this week that should hopefully add some sort of spark to them. But I really think it's another game that they sort of gave away to the Bulldogs, whereas the Bulldogs just ground and fought and ended up scrapping out a win. But I think the Cowboys probably should have put this away a lot earlier. But they're searching for answers on how to break the line at the moment. I think Hiku made a couple of line breaks and Val made a couple, but other than that, there realistically wasn't anyone busting holes in this Dogs defence, which...
And the thing
is, much better than it has been the last couple of years.
They overperformed last year on the back of a small forward pack, and now a small forward pack's
getting monstered. Yeah. It is getting. They are getting beaten in the middle most games, to be honest.
And Cotter's hasn't been there, but Cotter's not.
Cotter's back this week.
Cotter doesn't change that. He changes defence.
He'll do some of that clean-up work. Yeah,
he's the little scrapper you want, but he's not going to drag 4 blokes with him and pop an offload to Drinkwater.
No, absolutely not. But they don't look like breaking any defences apart at the moment. Burton had not nice little grubber there for Preston's first try and Dearden's chip and chase, which we mentioned. But then there was a lot of back and forth for about 40 minutes where it was just sort of we'll go through our set, you go through yours, play for field position, and not a lot really happened. But the Dogs did look more likely for points, and it was always that Burton to Addo-Carr, whether it was a kick or a pass, and Alamotti had chimed in a couple of times nicely as well to provide some balls for Addo-Carr. But you were going to say?
Now, it was raised by a friend of the show, Trent, who I hope to get on the show in the next couple of weeks. Trent, you're listening. Let us know when you're free, because come on and talk some footy with us, because I know you enjoy it. And same as actually Ovi, another bloke. But anyway, that's a different story. But he basically turned and said, just put the 7 on Burton and work out a 6, because if that's where they're headed. Thoughts on that?
Probably not a bad idea.
Watching this game, it was like the closest to... And becoming a Nico-style 7, you probably need a very good halves coach to get him there, or someone with some brains to get him there. But I watched this game and thought, you know what? Because I hadn't thought it originally, and he doesn't have a complete A+ kicking game yet, but maybe he can get there. And maybe all you need is, once you got your boot, you just need a short game.
Well, even if he just bombs it up high and lets the team chase it down, you know what I mean? Like, just put that really big, the biggest kick you can in.
And like, again, it's everyone's as strong as their weakness, and we're as a result talking, I guess, inferring about Flanagan. Would they be better moving him there and then trying just to find someone with a big body or someone else to play 6 and going from there?
I know someone.
And they just paid $500,000 to Brisbane.
Jay Reynolds that's sitting on the bench.
Well, here's the thing. My heartwarming moment of the season so far came in this game, because
every time they put the camera on him, the crowd went fucking berserk.
there was that, but also he came. It just warmed my heart so much. There was that play where it literally was started by Reynolds getting an offload, and the ball. They shifted the play down to the left. Addo-Carr gets away, puts that kick through, and I forget who it was for North Queensland, sort of dives on it, and a couple of players, I think Reynolds was one of them, comes over, picks him up and puts him into the in goal, gets penalised straight away. Reynolds turns around, starts barking at the ref. I was like, he's back. He's back. He started the play and then turned around and is the one giving it to the ref as soon as the penalty is given.
Do you swap the 6 on him, or do you get him to come back and play 7, or is it...
I think maybe more if you're looking to.
I think you're probably better off putting Burton at 6 and leaving Reynolds at 7.
And the end result is Olapau, or whatever his name is.
Olawapu.
Yeah. They've just paid. You don't pay $500,000.
No, for a
to have him not play this year. He'll be taking the field. He's in the extended bench this week. I imagine it won't be this week, but mate, they're at the bottom of the barrel.
If you're going to start Reynolds at 7, you could do a worse thing. Like, he's got a pretty good long kicking game, a decent short kicking game.
He's got a good... Yeah, well, I'm tainted by his Tigers.
His defence is probably better than Flanagan's.
Ish.
And
I said I'm tainted by his Tigers.
But at least he'll take the line on.
He does.
Know what I mean? Where
he'll fight and
Flanagan won't.
Rubs up,
and he's probably better in the middle of the field than he is towards an edge. He's a bit slower than what he used to be.
I would play him at 6th and play. But if we're going that way, I'd play Burn at... I'd actually come around and just play Burn at 7.
Yeah.
Which I think I would have said.
And I already forget most of them, but my bold prediction for the Bulldogs was Reynolds will play at least 3 games. So I feel like that's probably going to end up happening.
I just think it hurts Burton. I think Burton's more of a reaction player, whereas you start making him pin him down to say you need to kick it here at this position, you need to play in and around the middle of the field. I think it'd wear him out pretty quickly, to be honest.
I think the closest you're connecting him, I'm comparing him to Nico. I think Nico's a smoother player. He's obviously spent a lot of time at fullback, or he's fit enough to be everywhere. And
he's got a better kicking game too. Like, let's be honest, Burton's basically got the bomb, and that's about it. Nico's got a very good long kicking game.
And that's the other thing. I've said that for a long time, and I'm still.
He's got an okay bomb and a pretty good short kicking game as well. So, but
maybe Reynolds is the answer to round 10, and then we see old mate come in.
Well, Reynolds has played plenty of 7, and I couldn't see it being a bad option realistically to replace Flanagan with him, but.
But he needs to be replaced, is what we're saying?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's been, 2.5 years now where he's barely fired a shot.
Yeah.
Whether it's at the Roosters or the Bulldogs. So.
What do we think of this, Ollie? Anything else?
No, not really. This is sort of hard to pick the 3-2-1 here, I think, because part of me does want to go maybe like a Preston.
No, that's
for
fine. I
three.
feel like first of all, I feel like Barney had more to say, but
sorry, Barn. Sorry, I thought
Yeah,
that
well,
was
just asking you to throw
Obviously,
in.
I just when the Dogs scored, to me, it was building for the Dogs and Dogs to score that last try to get them back even, and then Burton hits the post. I had a feeling they weren't going to get another chance. I just had a feeling that the Cowboys are going to get the ball, they're going to march down, take the one, and that'll be the end of the game. Which didn't happen. Obviously, there was errors from both sides, and then Burton. But the way I don't understand that field goal. How he hit that so well from a position. He wasn't even looking for a field goal.
No.
They were trying to run it down the sideline, and the ball flops back out, and he goes, "Fuck it, I'm 30 metres out. I'm almost on the sideline."
Do you know who else did that back in the day?
Middles it through the. Don't you fucking say a Nastar. Shut up. And middles it through the middle of the ball and puts it straight down the middle of the post like that. I think if he actually had 5 seconds to think about it, he would have sprayed it 5 metres wide.
Yeah.
But he just went, fuck it, I've got to do it, bang, done. And he's just belted it
you know what that
down the
moment is,
middle
and
of the
it was
field.
actually I was at home, but you
Middle
know
of
what
the
they are?
post.
They're pub poppers. Like the whole pub just goes.
Oh,
"Fucking
absolutely. Yeah.
And
30
that's
people
when,
would
yeah,
have been
When
screaming.
we are on footy and frothies, like when that
Belmore's
happens,
Leagues
it's-
Club would have
yeah.
gone fucking insane at that moment.
They already went
But-
insane and destroyed the place when Reynolds stepped foot in the field. Don't worry about Burton kicking a field goal.
But yeah, that was just such a horrible position. They weren't even trying to set it up, and for him to slot that I think that'll be a massive confidence builder for him, and we'll see how he goes after that. But yeah,
I saw some commentary today. Actually, it was from Joel Kane on whatever show he's on, saying that Bulldogs can't possibly miss the 8. I'm
Really?
saying Joel Kane's off his head. I'm not saying I'm not knocking the Bulldogs, but we're in a pool here of 15 teams that can all make the 8 in my humble right now.
well, Tavita comes back, which helps their middle, but realistically, they've got 2 kids running the middle of the field for them. It's Max King and Jacob Preston.
Which is great. Like, they might be all-time greats. They might be fucking Steve Price and Andrew Ryan, as we said. But right now, there's a long way to go. They're going to have to get through. Burton might be in the Origin contention. Might be a 14, whether he's a 6 or a 14-6-4, whatever
Josh
he might
Adokar,
be. Someone
if
goes
he
down
does
for
go to
injury.
Origin, hurts
Fox out of there. But they've unearthed Carraz. What they've done is unearthed some gems. Carraz,
absolutely.
Alamonte, and the 2 forwards. And Reed's fantastic. But I like to say they're a lock for the top 8. God bless you, Joel. I like what you do. I really enjoyed the how sports went today at the inquiry into online gambling. That was good. So hopefully they're looking after you as well. But anyhow, we'll get to that soon. But I think it's a bit crazy to suggest that yet. But they're not the worst. They're not the worst. And if you're a Bulldogs fan, you get to be happy. I think from where they've come from, they're a fun team to watch and they're good. I have graver concerns for Cowboys than I do upside for Dogs. Is what I guess where I'm heading.
It's looking worse and worse week by week.
Yeah.
If Joel
That cursed draw last year just got them to the top 4.
As I said, they just don't seem to be able to break any defensive line apart at the moment. Doesn't matter who they're playing. They're just like a lot of they've had a couple of runaway tries with the intercepts and a couple of kicks with the bounce of the ball that's just gone the right way for them. But other than that, they don't seem to be able to conjure points apart from a short chip kick to Nanoi who jumps over someone and grabs it. Like there's just not a lot coming out of the halves and the centres to be able to provide points.
And I think older is 15-14 and Bulldogs scored 2 tries. They were flattered against the Tigers, who they only beat by 2 points and scored 3 long-range intercepts. They were flattered in the other game they won where, what was it? The one they beat?
Melbourne.
Melbourne. But it was just a shit heap game, and they
Drinkwater will make a
away.
difference when he comes back, but
anyway,
creative options are very limited at the moment at the Cowboys.
Bulldogs going the right way, and they'll get there because Gus will drag them. They're kicking and screaming, and Serrato will as well. But I think next year's the year for them.
Yeah, kick out. If they can add
and they're missing
another,
kick out for a couple of weeks.
they add another 1 or 2 for
TPJ.
Pangai Jr. and then maybe another forward in the next year or 2, and then they're
We
probably
need to see where Tapine's at.
pressing,
we need to see
pressing people.
we haven't seen him yet.
Pele, who's broken his arm, but
So anyway, 3-3-3-2-1.
Oh, just a couple of mentions. I thought Chester and Holmes were good at the backs for the Cowboys, and their halves were okay.
Geez, Chester's someone that, a team looking for a fullback could probably use.
Quite possibly. Yeah, he'd probably look all right in orange, but who knows? Griffin Neem and Cohen Hess had very good games. And Tamalalo was strong in the middle, but Robson was their best player for the Cowboys again. For someone who never had wraps on him 2.5, 3 years ago, he's gone a long way to being, again, another very classy dummy half in the competition that's stuck with him, as you mentioned. There's probably 10 or 12 of them that are really good.
And apart from Harry Grant, you couldn't, we couldn't sit here and probably agree on a top 10.
Yeah, not probably 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
The back five for the Dogs were very, very good. Who's two behind? Probably Cook at the moment.
Well,
I think Cook started this year
basically,
better than anybody else at the moment. But
And you throw Ben
and then
Hunt
you
into
got
that
your Jeremy
conversation as well.
Marshall King, Robsons,
Once you get to rep,
Rayleigh
but
boys.
absolutely.
Yeah. The back five are really strong for the Bulldogs, and they're probably the reason they won this game. They were fantastic. Kiraz, Alamotti, Josh King, as you all mentioned. Max King and Waddell were probably their best forwards, apart from the one guy who's probably going to get 3 points in this game. I had Preston as 3 points. I thought he was tremendous. Everything he seemed to touch in this game turned to gold. You had Burton with the 2. I just thought he did, enough to get him around, and the field goal probably clinches the 2 points for me. And then I had either Josh Adokar or probably Dearden for the 1. But
Give it to Fox.
give it to Fox.
Question.
Well, actually, I'll give Carraz.
Actually, yeah.
Kiraz?
Carraz
Let's
one
go
or Fox?
Go Carraz.
No, I'm just you're only just being obtrusive now. Is that the right word? I just made that word up.
Josh got 2, didn't he? Adokar get 2 tries?
Oh, he did 2. He definitely got the last one.
yeah.
I think he must have got both. No, Preston got 2
No, he got 1.
and 1.
Yeah.
He did get the match.
But
tire.
he did break down
He was
that
good.
left-hand
He was
edge a
great.
couple
And
of times.
that's fine. But Carraz is, we'll honorary mention Carraz because he's been good.
10 points to Josh Reynolds. Now, I have a question. If,
Course.
if
You're allowed
Joel
to. That's
if
fine.
Joel Kane is off his head, does that make his middle name Coke?
Possibly.
That's good from you, Ollie.
No sugar or sugar?
Does Coke usually have sugar in it? I don't know. I've never done the stuff.
Well, that's his middle name, isn't it? Sugar Cane? Anyway.
Sugar. Yeah, I know.
Joel Sugar Cane.
Better than his uncle walking. Anyway,
We've lost the plot here.
yeah, right.
Oh,
we
what
gotta
about
saluting.
old cousin Citizen?
Huh?
Citizen Cane.
Oh, right.
Yes.
You've just not seen.
I thought we were going down a Soviet citizen path where don't even start me about those fucking weirdos. All right, we've got to get to salute and slaps and all that sort of good stuff. Pot plant of the week, Oliver. Have you got one?
Yeah, the Canberra Raiders.
I'm going a little more specific. I'm going Harley Smith Shields. Moylan's defensive effort was fucking pathetic. This guy was right up there with him. He didn't. I don't think he got credited for missed tackles because he didn't get a fucking hand on him because he was 5 meters away from him when they ran past him. He's got no idea what he's doing in defence. He may have some idea when he's got ball in hand, but I think he only had 4 runs in this game as well. So
I'm going to go Matt Moylan because I'm barring myself from mentioning the Tigers.
I like it.
We've got. Have you got a slap for us, Ollie?
I do, and it's one heading into this week. Now,
Pot plan might have tripped him over at least.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I brought it up when I was last on the show, and I don't think it was
Probably
my
get done
slap
for hip
then,
drop,
but I'm actually going with the NRL draw because this week we have the Titans versus the Dragons for the second time of the season already, and the Knights versus the Warriors for the second time this season already. Both those games have already happened in round 1. And I'm still not over the first time the Dragons flogged the Titans, and I've got to see it happen again.
Watch it
Well,
again.
I haven't thought of this. Yeah, wow.
That is pretty
But
poor.
both those games,
Someone like me who hosts the show would do due diligence and mention what happened in the first round, but
actually, Titans and Dragons was round 2 because Dragons had the bye
I've had
round
to
1, so it's been less than a month.
This is the shirt which you can buy from RealLeagueMerch.com. If Dragons win this, I'll reevaluate my life. Go and buy it for this round.
Are you gonna also reevaluate it for this
Is
one?
it still in?
I might. I don't know.
Is it still in front of the commission or
Which one?
your reevaluation?
I haven't spoken to him yet.
Been put to the board. Just waiting their reply.
Yeah.
I want to salute Josh Reynolds.
Go call the coroner. Yeah?
Josh Reynolds,
Okay.
salute. Welcome back.
Right.
I'm going to slap.
Oh, sorry. You guys hadn't slapped anyone yet.
Yeah. Anyway, it's fine. You can sit there. It's not like you're drunk. I'm going to slap Paul Kent because, my God, the absolute shit that poured out of his mouth,
Fucking rhetoric
deflecting
comes out of
how
that
Canberra
dickhead.
got beat by 50. And this might sound bad, but I've often enjoyed what Kenny says. But fuck me, the shit that came out of his mouth in deflecting from Canberra getting done by 50 to how Penrith are apparently all bad people, which, they are a bit of wankers, but they're the best team in the comp, so whatever. I will be too if I'm the best team in the comp.
I'm sorry, but a lot of that comes down to Canberra, but just being so irrelevant. A lot of people,
To
people
come
don't care.
Come out and say that, but then
I
to
get
have
it,
a coach
stupid,
12
but-
months ago that made a personal issue public, and to come back and have it slapped in your face again, and then have
Deserved everything he got.
An idiot have a bloke, probably the second most powerful journalist in News Corp, come out and rant about how Penrith are pieces of shit. Wake up to yourself, like
It's his
fucking
job.
hell.
You know how many clicks he would have got today?
Well, I know. And
That's what
and
he
we
gets
live in a-
paid
we live in a
Would
day
have
and
been
age.
as many. If
We
it
live
was
in a
on
day and
Canberra.
age of fucking
He
you pay by
plays
click.
the villain
But,
to
yeah.
get the clicks.
What an
and-
absolute load of horseshit.
but-
Bonus slap just for Max King. Like, come on, you are an outstanding high-level first-grade
Come on,
footballer.
he had
Do
one
not
eye.
wear that on your head, mate. You look like some sort of fucking marsupial's been frisbeed up there, and just do better.
Mine was Jared Wallace.
Yeah.
I thought he had a very poor performance for the Dolphins in this game. Considering how good he's been previously from the last couple of years, he's been one of the better forwards running around in the game, and I thought it was his worst performance in a very long time. He just didn't put in this game, which is not something you expect out of Jared Wallace.
Well, it was a bit for them, but yeah, not this year.
And I'm going to salute Sean Johnson and the Warriors and for their comeback game. It's the best game I've seen Sean Johnson play since probably round 2 when he first started with the Sharks, when he absolutely carved up the second game for the Sharks, and hasn't done it ever since. So the last 3 years have been pretty slim pickings for him, but I thought it was a fantastic performance out of Sean Johnson.
So we've got Sean Johnson performing for the Warriors, Josh Reynolds returning and performing for the Bulldogs. I'm going to have to wake up tomorrow morning and go to school.
Year 7 here you come.
Wouldn't you love to relive Year 7 there, Ollie? You'd love it, wouldn't you?
I wouldn't mind a redo.
You'd
If
still
you
be the
knew
same,
what you were
you'd still
doing,
be the same
yeah.
awkward nerd, though. That's a
As
problem.
long as you
Ollie.
knew what you
Well,
were
no,
doing.
in hindsight, I'd try and change some
Some
things.
social
Yeah,
juice.
yeah. Social juice will fix it all.
Saluting.
Yeah, I'll just get on the
I'm gonna
social juice at 13.
Who am I saluting?
Plenty of people have.
I'm going to salute. I want to talk about my parents that way. I want to salute the Newcastle Knights, who have overperformed every
Absolutely.
weekend this year after the serve I've given them for the best part of 4 years. Kudos to them and what they're overachieving up there. Bonus social salute for Peter Murphy, the MP who's hosting the Online Gambling Reform Commission.
Right.
And she gave it to some of the CEOs today, and I loved it. So kudos to
Fantastic.
her. Telling
I
them
haven't seen it. I have to go
yeah,
have a
go
look
back
at
and
it.
have a look at it.
Yeah,
It's
right.
outstanding. So kudos to her actually coming in and doing the best for the punter in terms of what's happening there. But plenty more to flow under the bridge. I thought that was brilliant. This has been Footy and Frothies. Nothing else, boys?
No.
All right, we're going to do a preview show now. But yeah, check out everything we've said. rlm.com.au, YouTube, socials. Leave us some feedback. Let us know what's going on. And have a fantastic Easter if you don't get to the preview show. Enjoy the long weekend. Otherwise, stick around and there'll be a preview show up by the time you listen to this. And bye-bye.